Said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. Asl, original text. Fasl, section. Anwa'ul i'rabi arba'ah. The types of i'rab are four. Yani, there are four types of i'rab. So we're mostly going to use the word i'rab here, as opposed to translating that. That's a key word that we just need to say it. You're going to use the word i'rab for two things, basically. One is what we're talking about right now, which is exactly what's the case of a word. And therefore, how does its ending change? And also, you're going to use the word i'rab for breaking down sentences word by word. When you go and you say fi'lun madin mabniyun ala fathin, etc., you go through the whole sentence until the end, and you say everything. That's called i'rab. So, according to that, you would do the i'rab of something that's mabni. Bina is the opposite of i'rab. If something's mabni, it's not mu'rab. If it has a static, unchanging ending, then it doesn't have i'rab, which is the changing ending. But with another meaning, you could say you do i'rab for a word that's mabni. What's the i'rab of huwa? Huwa damirun munfasilun mabni ala fath. Huwa is a disconnected pronoun that's built with a fath. That's its i'rab, with that meaning. So that's second meaning we're not talking about, but just be aware of that. Anwa'ul i'rabi arba'ah. The types of i'rab are four. There are four types of i'rab. Raf'un wa nasbun fismin wa fi'l. There's rafa'. All these names, really translating them is sometimes futile. So you need to know what's rafa' and nasb and jar and jazm. But we can approximate. Let me say it this way first. Rafa', which is the highest station. That's the highest i'rab there. Rafa'. You know, does rafa' ayn mean? To be raised. Well, nasb and nasb, that's basically second rank. Fismin wa fi'l. These two apply to a nominal and a verb. So let me back up a little bit. A sentence has a function, which is to convey a meaning. In order to do that, a sentence comes equipped with some slots that need to be filled. If you can fill these slots, then you can put a meaning across. So, sentence S here, sentence comes equipped with some slots, like you need to be talking about something. And yani, you need to tell me about this thing you're talking about. That's another slot that needs to be filled. And sometimes you can tell me about what he did that to. If he did something to something, or he only did it himself. If he just did something, then you can tell me that. Or sometimes if he did something to something else, you can tell me that. And you can keep adding. You can tell me at a time when he did it, and you can tell me a place where he did it, and you could even link. Let's say this is a link right here. You can link another sentence to that first one. Like this part here, you can link it to this over here and give it the same judgment. Or you might link it to something else. You might link it to something over here. And you can do all sorts of things with sentences. So a sentence comes for a goal, which is to put a meaning across. And to do that, there are slots that need to be filled. And some of those slots are necessary. Some of them aren't necessary. But they're available. So a sentence comes with a slot that you could call it rafa. Rafa. Comes with a slot that you could call nasb. Now, all those depend on the words, how you're putting them together. Now, he says, faslun, section, and wa'ul i'rabi arba'ah. The types of i'rab are four. Rafa. Rafa, which is the highest type, yani. And wa'ul i'rab, the types of i'rab, it means the situations that your word's going to be in when you put it into the sentence. It's going to be any of these four. So raf'un, the highest rank there, rafa', someone might say subjective case. I resisted a long time to not say it. I'll show you why. Well, nasb, and nasb, someone might say accusative case. Fismin wa fi'l. Nasb, the word nasb means to be erected, like how you would erect a wall so it stands up, or a pole. Fismin wa fi'l. This first rank and this second rank, they exist in the nominal and the verb. Nahu, for example, Zaydun yakumu. Zayd yakum. Zaydun yakumu. Zayd is standing. So Zaydun, there's a dhamma there because this word fell into the slot of the subject of the sentence. When he fell into that slot, he had to take a dhamma. There wasn't anything else he could take there. Not like that. Not just coming like that. Zayd. So he got the dhamma. Zaydun yakumu. And yakumu, now this verb here, yakumu, it's the predicate of this Zayd here. Zayd yakum. Zayd, he's standing. Zayd, he's standing. That's very literal translation of the sentence. Zayd, he's standing. Because that's really a sentence inside of a sentence. Before I explain, is that clear? Did you see how that's a sentence inside of a sentence? Alhamdulillah. So, Zaydun yakumu. Yakum, that's a verb. Every verb needs what? A doer. So when I say Zayd, he's the doer. No, the doer always comes after. Yakumu huwa. Huwa yakumu. Yakumu huwa. Yakum, that's a sentence by itself. Yakumu, that's a sentence by itself. It means huwa. Yakumu huwa. The doer of the verb always comes after the verb. That's why. So lock that in right there and don't let it go. If you see a verb, the doer has to be after the verb. So when we see here Zaid is in front of Yakum, then we know he's not the doer of the verb. Zaidun Yakumu, Zaid, he's standing. So someone might say, how is he not the doer of the verb? He's standing. Because the doer of the verb always comes after the verb. That's a grammatical rule, not the meaning. Not talking about the meaning of the sentence. I'm talking about grammatical rules. The doer of a verb always comes after the verb. So if you ever saw what looks like the doer in front of the verb, then he's not grammatically the doer of the verb. Yes, in meaning, he's the doer of the verb. So separate those two. And that's important separation. So in meaning, he's the doer of the verb, but grammatically, he's not. Therefore, yakumu, that's its own sentence. Huwa yakumu. So Zaid, he's standing. That's the meaning of the sentence. Zaid, he's standing, but someone might just translate it as Zaid is standing. Okay, fine. So what does that have to do with yakumu? Where's the rafa? Here. Yakumu, that's dhamma. Because this verb here, there's not something that's coming upon it and affecting it. There's not something coming upon it and affecting it. So it's automatically in the state of rafa. This is where I was reluctant to use the word nominative, because I don't think the word nominative works with verbs. The English verbs don't switch like that because of being, yani, they have some talk about the case. In English, then what do you have? You have something called case. Case, nominative, accusative, genitive. I think that's for 8. You have those 3. In Arabic, you have 4 types of i'rab. In English, you have 3 cases. Or maybe there's some other cases too, but these 3 go here. What they call case, I don't have very precise definition for case, but it just doesn't matter here. So in Arabic, you have 4 things. Rafa, nasab, he's going to tell us here. Jar, there, jar, and jazm. 4 things. Rafa, nasab, jar, and jazm. In English, you have 3 things. Nominative, accusative, genitive, and you have maybe some other things. So when a word is a subject of a sentence in English, you're going to say it's nominative. So you say, Sam, here's a verb, hit. Nasab, Fred. Sam hit Fred. Fred is in state of nasab, but there's no sign for it. So Sam was, if there was i'rab in English, there'd be a dhamma here. And if there'd be a fatha here. And then you wouldn't need to rely on the word order. You'd be able to switch them around. But the verb can be in Arabic, can also be in a state of rafa. The verb can be in a state of rafa. What it means is that Nothing came upon it to make it otherwise. And I don't have any talk in English to match that in English that I know. So nominative and rafa are not really exact matches, and also accusative and nasb, as far as I know, I didn't find it. They're not really exact matches. So that's why the Arabic words are important here, or else, yeah, some things might get mixed up. So before I go further, I feel like I'm all over the place here. So is there any question? So let's take this nice and slow here. The author says, Asl, original text. Fasl, section. أنواع الإعراب أربعة. There are 4 types of i'rab. So these slots that can be filled in the sentence. Raf'un wa nasbun. So there's one called rafa', that's the highest rank. And there's one called nasb. So translation is not as important here. Fismin wa fi'l. These two, they exist in the nominal and the verb. That's the part that, for me, is restricting the translation. Nahu Zaydun yaqum, such as Zaydun yaqumu. So Zaydun, he's a nominal, so he has some i'rab here, something that reflects what's happening in the sentence, not just the meaning of the word. He fell into the space of the subject of the sentence, so he took a dhamma. And yakumu is a verb. And this verb, there's nothing in front of it that's affecting it and making it have any other state other than rafa'. That's the first default i'rab. Look here how Zayd is starting the sentence. There's nothing in front of it that's affecting it. There's nothing behind it that's affecting it. Yakumu is not affecting Zayd. Zayd is affecting Yakumu. Zayd's the subject of the sentence. He has dominance here. So being in this strong position here, he just took a dhamma from the top. And this verb, since it also doesn't have something in front of it that's affecting it, now you might say, oh, wait, you just said Zayd is affecting what's after it. Yes. That's why I went through all that stuff I said in the beginning. Because this Zayd is affecting the whole sentence here, not just the verb, the whole sentence. Zayd is the subject. And then after Zayd comes Yakumu, which means Yakumu huwa. He stands. So that whole sentence there with the pronoun that we're not saying, that's the predicate for Zayd. So Zayd, as a subject of the sentence, is affecting basically what, very important word, is affecting the mahal. The mahal. It's not the first time this word passed us. The spot. It's affecting the spot. That whole sentence is sitting in the spot of a predicate. So originally, the predicate's going to be a single word, like Zaydun, qa'imun. Zayd's a stander. Qa'im is just a single nominal. Zaydun akhuk. Zayd is your brother. There's no verb. But we took that single word out and put a whole sentence there. Zaydun yakumu huwa. So Zayd is affecting the mahal, the space being filled by this sentence here. It's not affecting the word yakumu by itself, not the word yakumu by itself. So nothing is coming in front of this word yakumu and affecting it. That's why it has a dhamma in the state of rafa, or that's why it's in the state of rafa and has a dhamma. Wa inna zaydan lan yakuma. And like, yani, he gave us example of rafa for a nominal and a verb. What about nasb for a nominal and a verb? He says, inna zaydan lan yakuma. Indeed, inna zaydan. So now Zayd is under the influence of a particle whose power is to render the nominal mansub in the state of nasb. Words in Arabic have, we're going to say, powers. That's their amal, their power. That's the power invested in them. That's what they do. So this particle, yani, particles have powers. You have to learn which ones do what. Harf jar, what's its power? To make the ism majroor. And fi'l, for example, what's its power? To make a word marfu' as a fa'il, or to make it mansub as a maf'ul. So inna, this particle has nasb powers. Comes and influences Zayd, takes Zayd out of the state of rafa, puts him into the state of nasb. So we said inna Zaydan, and we were able to do that because Zayd is a nominal, and nominals are accepting of nasb. Nominals are accepting of the state of nasb. Inna Zaydan lan yakuma. And then also the same thing happened for this verb yakum. There came upon it a particle, a negating particle that has the power of nasb. So we had to put the verb into a state of nasb. Inna Zaydan lan yakuma. He will not stand. Indeed, Zayd, he will not or shall not stand. So it's very literal translation there. Indeed, Zayd, lan yakuma huwa. He shall not stand. So there would be a comma if you wrote that out. Or if you streamlined it and just really watered the translation down a little, you could say, indeed, Zayd won't stand or will not stand. You can do that sometimes for simplicity. One of the things that I learned from studying Arabic is to say things that aren't hard to say. Like, you will see, inshallah, that the way Arabic language is, when something becomes heavier on your tongue, then it actually just, they will basically disassemble it a little bit so that it's easier. Okay, he goes on to say, or jarrun fism, and jar. Now, jar is genitive. Hope I spelled that right. This one matches because the genitive in English will only be for a nominal. وَجَرٌ فِسْمٍ نَحْوُ, such as بِزَيْدٍ, by Zayd. Like you say, I passed by Zayd. So then you might say, so what's this genitive? What does this mean here? And jar, what's that? So the word jar means in the language dragging. Like you would drag something on the ground. So That's again why the translation is not so important here. Genitive, what's that? So that's some word they use in English that nobody would use for any other reason. So that's not going to be clear also for someone. So what are we talking about here then? We're talking about a slot in the sentence. A slot in the sentence. So your sentence has slots that need to or can be filled. You have some primary slots and you have some secondary slots. So the subject's slot, which is going to be rafa if it's a nominal, it's a primary slot that needs to be filled. The object's slot, the one who receives the action, is usually not a primary slot that needs to be filled, but it's frequent. That's nasl. And then there's another slot that could be filled. It's an important one. It's a significant one. So it gets its own slot for putting meanings across, which is the slot that they call in Arabic jar or khafd. They might call it khafd also. Jar or khafd. And that's your object of the preposition. The object of the preposition. So here S means subject. O here means object. Really means the object of the verb. The object of the verb. Which they call direct object. I'm going to call it a lot just object. But there's two types of objects. There's the object of a verb, and we're going to just call it object sometimes. And then there's the object of the preposition. We're not just going to call that object. The object of the preposition. Yani, that's going to be an ism majroor. Or it's going to be mudaf ilayhi. It's going to be an ism majroor. Or it's going to be a mudaf ilayhi. So he says وَجَرٌ فِسْمٍ, and jar, yani the genitive case, fism in the nominal, nahwu, such as bi zaydin, by Zayd. So he didn't give a complete sentence in his example. You would say marartu bi zaydin. Marartu, that's supposed to be a ra here, not a dal. Marartu bi Zaydin. So I passed by Zayd. What's happening there? B, this ba basically is a circuit. That's what the harf jar does. So you have a verb and you have a nominal. Harf jar is a circuit between them. Why? Because the verb, sometimes it can get to a nominal by itself and sometimes it can't. Sometimes it can and sometimes it can't. When the nominal can get to the verb, when the verb can get to the nominal by itself, like here, you say, ضرب زيد عمرا. Perfect example. ضرب زيد عمرا. Here, ضرب, that's a verb. it doesn't have any space in i'rab, meaning in the sentence. Sentence also has like spaces between its slots. Those spaces, there's no register for them what they are. Does it's a gap. It still works though with the slots in the sentence. So daraba is not in any of those four. It's not in the space of rafa or nasab or jar or jazm as far as what it contributes to the sentence. It does contribute to the sentence, but not in any of those four slots. Zayd, daraba has here is very strong. It's nice biceps, qad you call, because daraba not only can make a nominal marfu', that's one of its powers, has another power. It's got two powers. Can also make a nominal mansub. So there's daraba with his arms crossed right there. Which ones? Sometimes, though, a verb can't get to this one, the object by itself. It doesn't have the power. For example, you say, Marra Zaydun. Zayd passed. So here, marra, this past tense verb, has the power to make a nominal marfu'. Okay. So marra Zaydun. Zayd passed. What about Amr? Is there any way we can link Amr to this passage? How can we get this verb to another nominal? By itself can't get there. But there's some circuits, maybe, if we put them, then maybe it can get there. So does any one of them work with marra? Yeah, a lot of them do. Depends on what you want to say. Marra tahtahu, did he pass under him? Marra fawqahu, did he pass over him? What? Marra ma'ahu, did he pass with him? Marra bihi, marra bi Amr, he passed by Amrin. Marra bi Amr. So he passed by Amr. So what happened here? This verb then, because of working with this particle, this harf jar, prepositional particle, was able to then get to Amr. And now, but really it was in the ba' that gave Amr the kasra. Not the verb. The verb didn't give Amr the kasra. The ba' did. But the verb couldn't even get to Amr had it not been for the ba'. Marra Zaydun bi Amrin. So that's a significant slot in the sentence for putting meanings across. So that's what jar is for. So rafa', that's going to be your subject, basically, if we're talking about nominals. And nasb, that's going to be your object. But in Arabic, we're going to say many objects, all kinds of objects. We'll see them, inshallah. I'm not talking about prepositional. I'm talking about objects of the verb, verbal objects. Many types of those in Arabic. We'll see them, inshallah ta'ala. And then you have the object of your prepositional particle, or it's going to be mudaf ilayhi, or it's going to be mudaf ilayhi. So, any question there? You said, is this the difference between transitive and intransitive verbs, or is this something different? It's related. It's related. That's included, but it's wider than that. He says, وَجَزْمٌ And jazm, that's the fourth type of i'rab. Jazm. وجزم في فعل, and jazm in the verb or in a verb. So jazm is only for verbs. This one, people have translated it in different ways. But I don't really find any equivalent to it in English to the Arabic. That's why I only gave you three. And the fourth one, I could just translate something and put it there, but doesn't really matter in English as far as I know. It's just putting a word there. So the jazm. Jazm literally means qata', cutting. It's called jazm because you cut off the last vowel or you cut off the last letter. Fi fi'l, in a verb. Nahwu, such as lam yakum. So he could put anything there. The scholars like the example of qama yakumu because of how much the verb transforms. Because you can say daraba, or let's say yadrib. You can say yadrib, lam yadrib, lam yadrib. Nothing happened here, but that I put a sukoon on the ba. Lam yadrib. Before the word lam was there, it was yadribu. If I put len there, it'll be len yadriba. Nothing happens to the verb here but changing the last vowel. So if it's majzoom, lam yadrib. But this word qama, yakumu, he stands. Yakumu. When you put lam in front of it, you have to put a sukoon. You can't have two sukoons in a row, so what are you going to do? Drop the first one. We said that before. Lam yakum, so it becomes lam yakum. So because of all the transformation there, yani, it makes it more significant. It makes it more noticeable. Otherwise, you could have used any verb there. So lam, that's a negating particle. It has the power of jazm. Puts the verb into a state of jazm. فيرفع بضمة وينصب بفتحة ويجر بكسرة ويجزم بحذف حركة. Therefore, so a word is given the state of rafa by a dhamma, and the state of nasb by a fatha, and the state of jar by a kasrah, and the state of jazm by omitting the vowel, the last vowel, yani by sukoon. And notice how Arabic has, just for speaking it, dhamma, fatha, kasra, and sukoon, and there's nothing else when it comes to vowels. And the sukoon is not a vowel. It's the absence of a vowel. So Arabic has only 3 vowels, and then you have the absence of a vowel. That's 4 cases for an Arabic letter. And Arabic has 4 cases for an Arabic word in the sentence. Then it was possible to match each of those cases with one of those vowels or the absence of a vowel. So that's sufficient for today, subhanallah wa bihamdi. Somehow I thought we'll be on page 3 or 4 today, or maybe even page 10. Subhanallah. You have any question for me? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.